Hello, how's it going? Already got some people. Anderson, thanks for popping in. Desiree, good to see you. We finished this half last time, so we're going to work on the other half a little later. But I have a sketch card. I haven't drawn a sketch card in a zillion years. I actually had to, if you see on the back, these are my different drawing tools, and I wanted to see how well it stuck to this like greasy paper. And it's not sticking great, I'm being honest. The only thing that works is the pure India ink with a brush, so gonna have to use that. Let me see if I can lower the camera, and that way maybe it's easier to see. That's the mega zoom. You can see how for scale, that's how close we were before. But yeah, I hope everyone's having a good night. This is interesting. The camera is actually between me and the sketch, so I'm like looking around the camera. So yeah, we'll give this a try. I don't know if you guys like this better. We could try to do it in the future. Like the top of one of his hands right here. We draw his other hand right here. This is a commission for someone who collects sketch cards, but I gotta say the paper is not ideal. Kind of reminds me of if anybody's ever held those Captain America Fallen Sun sketch covers. They're kind of like very slick. So we'll see if we're able to pull it off. I'm not sure if I will. There was actually a time where I did like a big stack of sketch cards when I was first in the Boston comic scene. I put them on the table. I had them in these fancy top loaders. Uh, laminate after, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and they did not sell. So I only ever did them once. I was like, nope, it was a waste of my time. Okay, so the handle is going to be right there. Today was not a pleasant day, so happy to be here with you folks. Let's see if we can erase on this thing. At least it erases, so it's got that going for it. When I tested the other side, you can see like there's little tiny bits of ink here. I'm gonna go into the Boston Comic Con because I know there were mixed reviews online. There were some people saying it was wonderful. There were some people saying it was terrible, as well as a prominent artist saying that it was terrible. And I'm going to come at it from a little bit of a different perspective because I've done several fan expos this year, and one of the things I've definitely learned about doing them is that it's not like going to a comic specific show. Like it's not entirely just about artists and comic books. It's really it's a pop culture show. And one thing that I had to do is learn how to be the first comic person that somebody meets. Um, And I know that sounds crazy because we're like so steeped in this world and we know it so well that like to think that people don't know that like comics exist or are being made or that they're, that there are people that make them. Um, and that was really how I came about, that. And I actually had a very good helper at the show, Brian Bollinger. He's a regular on the stream. He lives not too far away from where the show was, far enough where it's a journey, but not too far to where it's impossible. And he came down and helped me at the booth, and that was great because like I sometimes when I have to do like ringing out all the transactions and do all the talking and the drawing, I can get a little overwhelmed, or somebody might go away feeling like I didn't pay enough attention to them. I try to say hi to everybody, um, but as we know, it gets busy at those shows, and I can't always be 1,000% attentive at all times to everyone around the booth. But yeah, it was. There were plenty of people there, and I was attentive as I could be, and I was present, and I was at the booth the whole time, minus one walkabout on Sunday, where I went to go see some friends I hadn't seen in a long time, and Dan Connor, who's the writer of the current um, Nightmare Before Christmas books coming out from Tokyo Pop. He was there. I hadn't seen him since before the pandemic. But there were plenty of people, and it took a little bit being a little bit more engaging. And for some artists, that's really hard. Um, it's real easy to get up and walk around and get discouraged and stuff. It's a lot harder to like dig in and be more like proactive, I guess is I don't know if that's the right descriptor, but I think people understand what I mean, to just be present and be open to being the ambassador of comics for someone new. I'll tell you a couple of stories that were very nice, that happened. One was at the show and one was not at the show. I was driving home one night because I went back and forth to the convention, and I pulled into the gas station on the way there. And I walked in, and the attendant recognized, oh, you were at Comic Con, because I still had my tag on because I'm not the best at taking the tags off. And we talked for a minute, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm an artist. I've drawn the Tick and Ninja Turtles and all these other characters." And to me, it seemed like he was having a bad day. So what I did was, is I just grabbed one of his brown paper bags that were on the desk, and I just drew a little picture for him. It only took a few minutes, but it definitely lifted his spirits, and um, it was just seemed like a nice thing to do for somebody who was having a bad day. Um, and then I bought 2 bags of M&Ms, one for me and one for the missus. Um, Another one was on Sunday when we were at the show. Like I said, I went for a walk around and I said hi to Chris Campana, who was signing like crazy. All the Ghost Rider stuff and the Spider-Man stuff he's been doing, people are real excited about. I actually did a trade with Chris. I don't know if I brought it in here with me, did I? I got it. I traded a copy of my Conan cover for his Fire and Ice cover, and it's written by Bill Willingham. And I haven't read it through its entirety, but it actually seems like a nice read. Uh, I'm looking forward to finishing reading this. I'll probably do it after the stream. It looks real good, and I mean Chris's cover is great. Like if they had asked Chris to draw the interior, he would have been one of my top 5 choices in all of comics, I mean. Like, just because I know he would bring such creative energy to it, and he's done such good work lately, and he's so passionate about the fantasy genre of comics. I think he would really do something special. But yeah, I traded him a copy of my Conan, and yeah, and I did lots of sketches for people. My friends from Rubber Chicken Comics came by the booth. Let's see if I can find the book that I got from them. It's around here somewhere. I should have been more organized. But anyway, I got a copy of their new book. It's a seafaring horror story. I think it's called Liner. They continue to put out books and make cool stuff. Josh Hurst came by the booth, and he's the guy that's been packaging their books. And I think he's been doing a really excellent job. And I think he gets better every issue, every single one. Whether it's Werewolf with a Chainsaw, Liner, Rubber Chicken Comics Presents, or whatever. Like, I think he does. I think he's really cooking. Yeah, another story was I met a young man on Sunday, and he just loved drawing. Like, he was just he's like, I love drawing, I love painting. His name was Daryl. He was going through my prelim binder, and I don't know, I just seemed like he was really inspired, and so I just told him to pick one out of the prelim binder, and I gave it to him. And about 15 minutes later, he came running back to the booth, out of breath. He had already bought like a little frame for it, and he had lost my business card and wanted another one to put in the frame with it. So I was happy to give him one, and we took a picture together, and yeah, that was really nice. He was really excited. He was really nice fellow. No, seriously, Josh, every book gets better. Like, you should be proud, man. Like, and I was having fun with the early stuff. I really think you got something cooking, and I think, with you and Jay, I think the label can I think you can turn some heads, man. I hope to put a book out with you guys myself sometime. Or even just a short story or something. Yeah, I love the little graphic design flourishes in Liner. I swear I had it on me, like the copy I got. I must have left it by the couch where my reading pile is. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you, Josh. We're having to use the probably just the brush pen on this, based on our attempts at the other tools, because I don't even know if we're going to be able to erase anything. This is one of those, like, I only got one chance to do this, and if I screw it up, he's going to have to, like, mail me another one, and I'm going to have to probably pay for it. More than once. There were several instances in my career where someone sent me a sketch cover or gave me a sketch cover to work on, and I I mean, thank God they make more than one of those things. I had to buy my own copy on eBay and redo the drawing. I've had to do that a couple times in my life. One of them was actually from a friend of mine who's on here pretty regularly, and he never noticed. I'm not going to say who it is because I got away with that one. Because who knows? Maybe he bought that sketch cover on a magical, important day in their lives. I wouldn't want them to think that I didn't treat it with the respect it deserves. I just messed up the drawing, which happens. Try to move this to the center. I'm sorry, there's like the camera's in a weird spot since we zoomed it in a little bit. You can see how slick this stuff is. If you look at it real close, you can see that it's got a gloss to it. I'm just trying to go with it because I'm going to have to let it completely dry and then try to erase some of the pencils. Getting a little bit of a squirt at the end of this thing because it's not used to. This is really difficult. I actually think if I had gone over this with maybe some gesso or some paint to give it a little tooth. I actually just thought of how I'd probably have to fix this. I'd probably have to um, cut out a piece of paper and do like a paste up over the top of it. But that would be Bristol, so I probably wouldn't screw that one up. I could. I very well could. Oh, thank you. This is very hard. I don't even know how I'm gonna get the freaking like stubble on him or anything. Yeah, those were a couple of the stories from the weekend. I had two neighbors I hadn't been next to. Oh, one of them actually left behind a Ninja Turtles comic. The gentleman on my left, I think his name was Matt. So I had to find his Instagram and send him a message because I didn't know him. And I'm gonna have to mail him his book because he forgot it at the show. He got a book signed by Eric Talbot, the Mirage Ninja Turtles artist, and he left it under his booth. Or he left it under the edge of my booth, actually. So hey, Ethan, how you doing? You here to watch me struggle with this glossy paper? I did get invited to my first 2024 comic show at the show this weekend, so that was nice. I don't think I can announce anything, but you know, it's nice to know people value my presence a little bit to check in this early. How's everyone else doing? I've been doing all the rambling. Anybody have anything fun happen today? Anybody get a job promotion or win a new car on The Price is Right or anything? Did one of you win the giant mega billions? If you did, I'm available for commissions. We'll talk. We'll have your people talk to my people. What else did I buy at the show? I actually only picked up a couple of dollar books. Money's a little tight, so but I did find some reading material. I actually picked up the Vertigo Angel and the Ape miniseries that Howard Chaykin wrote. It was at a booth that had nice sets of comics starting at like $3. So it's my kind of booth. There were a fair number of comic vendors. There really were. There were um, a lot of graded comics still. Like that seems to be the thing everybody's really still pushing. But oh, and if anybody in attendance is one of the people that ordered a graded Conan, I took them all to CBCS in person at Boston to save some shipping. So um, it's got the expedited speed, so I will get tracking out as soon as I can. Ethan says, today I started crying because I found out Carlos Pacheco died. He's my second favorite after Jim Lee. I absolutely adore Carlos's work. Whether it was his early work on like Bishop or the Marvel UK stuff or anything like that, and then Aerosmith, his JLA one-off issues, a great one. The Batman, Superman stuff. He did Green Lantern, X-Men, all sorts of stuff. I actually did get to meet Carlos a couple of times, and I got to sit near him at Friendly Neighborhood Comics when um, just after the Boston uh, the bombing at the marathon. There was supposed to be a Boston Comic Con, and he was going to be a guest there. And what ended up happening is that the show was postponed, but all the artists were already in town. So all the shops started scooping up artists and having signing events. And actually, it was random because my buddy Jay Kennedy, who's sometimes in attendance on these, just called and said, "Hey, you want to go to a Friendly Neighborhood Comics?" And I thought that he just meant just to go. He was like, "Yeah, Carlos Pacheco is going to be there. They said they might give us a space." And I said, "Oh wow, well that would be something." And Ernie and God, what's the other guy's name? Slade, I think is his nickname, but I don't know. I think his name was Matt, but I think everyone, for whatever reason, called him Slade. Um, Welcomed us in. We had a nice spot. It was just around the corner, and the story I share all the time from there is he was open for commissions, and I'd never seen him anywhere because he lived in Spain, and um, I was like, this is probably my only chance to ever get a sketch from Carlos Pacheco, and I had a pretty crappy job at that point, and not very much money, so basically. I got on his sketch list not knowing if I was going to have the money to pay him. And thankfully, some people bought some comics and some drawings, and I was able to pay him. And I got a beautiful Colossus like head sketch from him from the X-Men. When was that? I don't remember what year it was. 2014 maybe. Maybe it was even earlier than that. I don't know. I don't remember what year the marathon bombing was. 2011. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, we spoke at length about comics, and he looked at my work, and he was very nice. And then the only other time I saw him was when he came back later that year when they rescheduled the comic show, and he came back for the comic show. when it was held in Boston, when it was the old Boston Comic Con, and I went and talked to him, and I actually had everyone that was at that signing sign what was going to be the poster for that year. Mark, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Working on the sketch cover here, or sketch card here. Sorry, force of habit. I'm used to saying sketch cover. I'm trying to get everything to work with this paper. It's a little bit of a struggle. I'm trying. It's because I did some tests on the back. I'll show you, just with my different tools, just to see which ones would stay better. And it seems like this one's the best one. So I have to let it dry, and then I'm going to try to very gently erase the pencil, and then hopefully I'll be able to go in with a pen at that point and just sit it on top. Just a little bit of detail here and there, and then maybe some background cross-hatching or something that we can have like a little glimmer coming out from the sword. That's what I'm hoping. That's the hope. That's the dream, the hope. We can all pray to Crom that it will work. But I need this to dry before I go any further, so I'm going to put this off to the side, and we'll get Belit out. This was another one of the sketch combo deals. We did the Red Sonja last week. Working on Belit this week, so we'll put Conan off to the side here. If anyone wants to keep an eye on it, if it looks dry to you, just chime in, let me know. Raise your hand. That was a joke. So this I can use anything, like because it's Bristol. I can go in and hell, I could use crayons and it would work. This it was a little trickier, but I think it came out okay. It's doable. I did get my confirmation for Colorado Springs, so I will be attending that show. Um, it's an away game, as I like to say, so I will be bringing less stuff. But one thing that I will be bringing with me that has never been for sale before will be a bunch of the original artwork for the Colorado Springs Comic-Con posters and badges and banners and stuff that I've done the artwork for. So if you're a person who's attended in the years past and said like, oh wow, I would love to own the original artwork for the poster, this will be the first time, and I've been doing the posters since it started, so I will have a part of a binder that has those available, and it might be the only time I make them available. What do you guys think? Do you like the closer in view, or do you want me to pull back so you can see more of the board, as it were? I'll let you guys decide on that. But that's my story of meeting Carlos Pacheco a little earlier. It was a delight. He was kind. He was attentive. He was present. He was fantastic. So Ethan, I'm sorry you didn't get to meet him. He was a real gem. I did see a movie the other day. I was so tired post Boston that I took Monday night off from work. Usually I work late on Mondays and every day, but I took it off and watched a movie. I had not seen the Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson film. I like his movies, and I thought it was a delightful film. F. Murray Abraham was fantastic in it. He's good in everything, so that's no surprise. Ah, that was your favorite, Desiree? Yeah, it was really good. I thought it was terrific. I enjoyed the "You're one of us" scene, and when Ray Fiennes was preparing to break out of jail. Thought that was beautiful. Still in my reference here, John Buscema, Ernie Chan. Digging a little deeper, if you read a lot of Conan, you know that the Buscema Chan books can be inconsistent. But anytime they had an anniversary issue together and John didn't ink it himself, I feel like they stepped it up. Ethan says he's addicted to the movies. He goes 2 or 3 times a month. That's expensive, but it's a not a bad thing to go and enjoy a movie. I don't think. I really don't. If I could afford it, I would go to more movies. What was the last one you saw? Was it recent? Obviously, if you go to 2 to 3 times a month, you must have seen something recently. I know Desiree, you see a lot of movies too. I don't know. Maybe you stream more of your movies, but I don't know. I admit I do watch more movies at home than I do at the theater, and it's not because I don't love the theater. I just time and money. And we actually have a couple of nice theaters around. It's not because we don't have nice theaters, fancy chairs and everything. So Desiree said she saw 4 movies this past weekend. Wow. Okay. Shortcomings, which is Randall Park's directorial debut, Oppenheimer, Barbie, and the new Turtles. Ethan said he saw Mission Impossible 7. I saw Barbie. I liked Barbie. Enjoyed it. It was fun. I'd like to see Oppenheimer, but I don't know. Is that a movie I need to see in? I mean, if I can see it in 70 millimeter, like I guess there's that option out there. I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey in 70 millimeter, and that was one heck of an experience. So, and I want to see the new Ninja Turtles movie, but I admit that I will likely see that on TV. On the 19th, you're seeing TMNT, Ethan. It looks good. It looks fun. I and I'm a person who saw the Jim Henson and the sequel in the theater, the original live action ones back in the day. Desiree saw Oppenheimer in IMAX 70 millimeter. It was glorious and loud. Yeah, yeah, that's the way. That is the way, is in the parlance of our time. Shane, good to see you. Seeing Turtles this weekend. Nice. Nice. I haven't talked to anybody who didn't say it was fun. I had some people say like, "Oh, it was for kids or whatever," or, I was like, "But it's the Ninja Turtles. Did you expect it to be like, I don't know. What did you expect it to be?" I think Nate and Sean saw it and they both really liked it. You know, that was the piece that I got. I'm not sure if Rodney saw it. I'm not sure if all the Ohio fellas saw it. What are we doing? Is this thing dry yet? Nope. Still not dry. You see that? See how it's shiny at the top there? Means it's not dry. One of the things that I have been thinking about in regards to my drawing, and because I've been looking at some old work lately with those sketchbooks, and then I was also putting together some portfolio stuff lately, and I would say is that my work has evolved in different directions over the years. Shane says fans in quotation marks seem to be enjoying it. I just with Ninja Turtles, I just want to go and not feel like I've lost some sense of intelligence by the end of it and been entertained. That is the extent of it. And I'm hoping I've eaten far too much popcorn than any one human should be allowed to consume. See, I've talked about these pocket brushes. You see that nice feather you get? You see that nice tapered line? Look at that. That's just so sharp and nice. And someone like me who has really shaky hands, that's a uh, tough thing to get. Desiree says, "I'm a TMNT fan and I enjoyed it. It's fun and colorful. Great animation too." The animation looks great. Yes. Ethan says he gets a small popcorn for him and each of his kids. Now, see, if I were one to go to the movies that often, they used to have like membership discounts at some of the bigger chains, where if you saw a bunch of movies, they'd give you, you know, maybe not give you popcorn, but they would at least give you like a bulk rate on the tickets. I don't know if any of them still do that, like the Regals, or I know they're all going out of business, the big ones like that. I would use my brother as a litmus test, maybe for Ninja Turtles. We tend to line up on those types of movies. We don't always agree on like the heady indie or foreign flicks or anything like that, but um, When it comes to popcorn movies, my brother and I are not too far off. Shane says he's in a movie club and it's worth it. Yeah, if I had the ability to go to like a bunch of movies, yeah, for sure. And Ethan says his theater, you build points for money off food and tickets. See, that's good too. So eventually you will get, if not a bulk deal, you're getting just a little something for being a loyal customer. One thing I did come up with at the show that I will be implementing at future conventions and commission opportunities is the stupid coupon. What is the stupid coupon? The stupid coupon is a coupon for people getting Undersea Hero related sketches. And if you use the stupid coupon, you get a discount, but I have to be allowed to make the drawing stupid. That's the rules. It's quite simple. Stupid is obviously a general term, and I'm the person who decides the level of stupidity. Hey, Jonathan. Hello, William Russell. How are you? Jonathan, if you don't see it, Desiree says hi. Desiree says, now I have to fly out to your next show. The stupid coupon, I have to finish designing it, but it will be stupid looking for sure. And it might be one of those where I just lay it on the table. Like if someone decides to use said coupon, or maybe it's something that I can include in like, you know, website orders, I can put it in the box or whatever. But yeah, we're doing stupid coupons. Jonathan asked, "Stupid coupon? Does that mean the COD?" I don't know. Maybe if someone asked for like and I've done one already where the tick characters and the Undersea Hero characters interact. Like if the tick is there's a tick blank sketch cover and you want me to do an Undersea Hero piece on it or something. That would be an opportune time for Caped Cod to make his entirely unheralded return. I'm excited every time I see the Cod, but I seem to be alone in that excitement, and there's a reflective solitude that I can enjoy. Staring out into the ocean type of deal. Got some blue pencil that we're probably going to have to get the electric eraser out to take care of. That's underneath here. But yeah, these are at the sketch and book tier. I do like a bust sketch, but I sometimes people request things and sometimes I can do them, sometimes I can't. In this case, they just asked for, you know, these two characters to be doing something, and I can understand that. I think I trailed off because I was oh, Jonathan missed the recap. Wow. I think one of the things, because like obviously, I mean, people saw, and I'll just mention his name because it's all over the internet. Saw Frank Cho's criticism of Fan Expo, and look, I was there, and I've done 3 fan expos this year: one in Cleveland, one in New Orleans, and one in Boston. And one thing remains the same: is that being an artist setting up at a fan expo, I have to be prepared, and I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for other artists. I have to be prepared to not only introduce people to my work, but I have to introduce people to comics. Um, so many people come to Fan Expo not from comic backgrounds, but from anime, from uh, movies to video games to all sorts of stuff. And um, I found that I've had to be present and engaging and welcoming and be willing to introduce someone to comics for the first time. And some people don't have the patience for it. Some people don't want to do that. Um, but I did. I'll admit, it was partly due because people care for me and support me. But I did pretty well at Fan Expo Boston. You know, like, is it one that, like, if I lived far away, that I think I could cover flight, hotel, and everything? No, for me personally, I couldn't do that. But conversely, New Orleans was. Like, I could cover my flight, I could cover my food and any of the expenses that I had to accrue for that show. I had help, I had friends and family in the area, but, like, you know, the numbers are what they are for me. Um, but I had to be at my booth at Fan Expo, and I had to be willing and able to introduce people to comics and, be engaging and try to be charming a little bit. I wore my convention shirts, which are like collared shirts, and tried to look nice, do my hair. I drove back and forth, and it's not a short drive, so I had to get up extra early to, be clean, presentable, and then just show up and be ready to talk. It's a show that if you don't talk about your artwork, or if you don't want to talk about your artwork, it can be a long day. And I saw that in Artist Alley. I saw some people struggling, and it's hard for artists to talk. And the show's job is to get people through the door. And then after that, I feel like it's kind of up to us. I mean, there are different buyers. What I love. Um, there are shows that people know coming in that are just comic centric, and they attract comic centric people, and it does make my job easier. But it's still my job to introduce people to stuff. Um, and there was actually some great books there, Jonathan. There were some really good dollar bins. I bought a couple of sets for $3 a piece. Not like, gangbusters books, but like I was able to pick up some nice reading material. I traded for the Fire and Ice book that Campana did a cover for. I think I showed that off already. I traded him a Conan for it. I also got this in the mail, which is the Carrie Nord Kickstarter, the folklore book. I backed this ages ago. And it's signed, and it comes with all this stuff. This I liked. Like, this is how my Kickstarter, most of the tiers will be. They'll fit in the bag and board. Until you get to like the original art stuff, then that'll be another size box. But the one complaint I had is it was shipped in one of those like flimsy mailers instead of a box or a comic mailer. Shipped in one of these generic ones, and these are not the best. They bend and stuff. Working on Belit's fuzzy brassiere. It's more of a swimsuit, I think, like fuzzy swimsuit, I guess. Definitely designed by a couple of dudes. Ethan asked, what was your introduction to comics and the first comic you read and never owned? I'm actually going to be doing a video about that, but my first comic was the Marvel Holiday Special from 1991. And it's right here. This was my first comic. And it has an intro to all the major Marvel characters and books by some of the best artists they had at the time. So it was a perfect Marvel gateway for me. It's a great point of entry. And I was really, really lucky that my first professional that I met was Daryl Banks. I was so lucky because he's so nice, and he's been a teacher, so he's very patient with people like me with really lots and lots of dumb questions, and probably questions he'd answered 1,000 times at that point in his career. But Daryl was, I was so lucky that he was the first pro that I met, and he almost never has a bad day at conventions and stuff. So like I've actually told people that I knew it was their first show to go meet Daryl, because like he's a great ambassador for comics and artwork in general, and doing art professionally. And he won't BS you if you show him your work. If he agrees to look at your work, don't just shove a portfolio in his face. If he's like, yeah, I'll look at your portfolio, he will give you criticism. He will tell you what's good, what's bad, what you need to work on. And I will tell you from experience, he's right. Whatever he tells you, he's right. There's stuff that he told me when I was younger. I wish I had the capacity to have implemented it younger. Um, but whatever my thing is, I hadn't figured it out yet. And one of the things I was talking about when I was looking at my old work, one of the things I figured out, and this is something that I would put in like my mission statement, is I'm not trying to hide the fact that it's a drawing. I actually want people to be able to tell that my pictures are drawings. There's a graphical element, there's an immediacy to it. And, you know, Shane says Daryl's just a great person. I 1,000% agree. Um, I will sing his praises until I'm in the ground, whenever that is. Yeah, he taught at CCAD. He's great. But yeah, I like a graphical element to my artwork. I like that it has texture. I like that you can see different tools. I like that. And I like seeing that in other artists. Like, there's so many artists who you can't forget that it's a drawing. I'm not trying to hide it from you. And I think I struggled so long thinking that it had to be, you've got to be real. It's got to have 10 million little lines, and it's got to have all the detail. And someone keeps texting me. Okay. Okay. They're my friends, but I have to silence them. Um, but we're moving along. We're inking this. Some artists that come to mind that like work very graphically: Howard Chaykin, Alex Toth. Um, there's just a whole different school. Dave Johnson. I'm not saying I'm in any of their class, but like I would say that I have some influences that absolutely, are similar to theirs. That doesn't mean I use them well or properly or whatever, but and there's just different schools. Like there are people who come from, and I would say that graphical approach comes from artists like Milton Caniff. If you don't know who Milton Caniff is, he was the artist on a strip called Terry and the Pirates. Was it Steve Canyon, the other one that he did a little later in life? And then he influenced, Joe Kubert. He influenced Frank Robbins, of course, George Wonder, Bob Lubbers, and some of those guys, did comic strips, which the form is largely dead at this point. But just knowing who they are, and that they had an influence on comics and a whole different way of doing comics, especially adventure or heroic type stuff. And then there's the people who try to do more realistic stuff. That's like you go and if you look at the old ECs, that's the direction of like the Al Williamsons of the world, you know, who use lots of photo reference, who use lots of different technique. Let's see if we can erase a little bit of this. See how it's coming. Hey, it's working. Cool. Yay. India ink with brush was the way to go, I guess. And then I'm going to go in and add just a little bit of marker pen. And then we'll add a little bit of bleed proof white, and we'll ruin it by writing our name on it. Because maybe somebody would mistake it for like a much better artist's work. Oh, that's got to be so-and-so. Well, no, it's just me. There's a whole bunch of Kickstarters going up, and you know, I don't have links to all of them. If anybody has anything going on that's a pal of mine, you're always welcome to post it in the thread, and you know, I can help. Can maybe come on next show or something. One of the things you can see in the description of tonight's video is I'm beginning the call to really ask my friends for help. If you're in comics media, if you just have a Facebook page, if you have whatever, anything that you can do to help get the word out about the Kickstarter in November, either before or during it, this is where I'm calling on your help. And I'm going to keep asking for it all the way through till we're done with the Kickstarter. I feel like we need a secondary tone here, but I don't know how well it's going to work. But let me just check one of the drawing lines on the back. Yeah, I don't know how well that's going to work. Did any of this stick? Okay, it did. It did. If we rub our finger on it, it's not coming off. It just takes a long time to dry. That's okay. Hey, Daryl Murphy's in the house. How you doing? I met another Daryl this weekend who was an artist. He was really nice. He hasn't done any like comics yet, I don't think, but he just really liked drawing. I meet lots of people like that. I hope people still make attempts to draw. I love when people who don't draw very often, or like Desiree did some painting, lots of other stuff. So people just give it a try. I think it's so important just to learn, you know, some of this. Ethan Allen asks, I play a lot of wizard games, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo, and fell in love with their lead artist, Samwise Didier. Have you heard of him or seen his art? Very detailed and colorful. No, I don't know their work. I would definitely check it out. I don't know a ton of the game dev artists, unfortunately. I should, because they're spectacular. But I do know, you know, I actually dipped my toe in that industry a tiny bit. But Diablo, the recent one, was partly written by my friend Ron Mars. So if you don't know him, you could check him out on social media. He writes really great comic books too. He's currently writing, he's been doing all the Cosmic Marvel stuff. He did the recent Warlock comic, and he did Silver Surfer, all kinds of stuff. Jonathan says it's a neat sketch card. Was that from the commissioner? Yeah, he mailed it to me. I guess he has a whole bunch of them, and he has artists do these for him. And I'm trying not to ruin it, but I guess we'll find out. If you're looking to make your own sketch cards, please, please do not get any sort of gloss or semi-gloss finish. Try to get matte or Bristol. They actually make pre-cut sketch cards in watercolor and Bristol board, and I think if I were making custom ones and I wanted it to be branded somehow, I would just make a stamp and stamp whatever the brand was on it, and then have, all the room in the world to do stuff. Daryl says he's been doing great. He's been preparing for these Comic Cons. I just did Cosplay Worlds with Jason Keith. The colorist, I've met Jason. If I'm thinking of the same guy, he was at Colorado Springs last year, and he doesn't know it, but actually another member of the staff of the convention came to my booth and actually borrowed some of my art supplies because he didn't have any. I never got it back either, but that's entirely okay. This is a very glossy sketch card, so. He showed me some that like much better artists had somehow done like beautiful work on, so it's just further proof that I'm just a regular doodle bug. Yeah, nice fellow. Nice fellow. I only talked to him very briefly. I have to not touch the ink because it will smudge. Have a good show in Baltimore. That's one of the good art-centric shows. So we were talking about fan expos earlier because I just did Boston, and I thought it was a good show. I thought there were lots of people there, and I did pretty well. But like the difference being is that you have to be ready to talk about your work and introduce people to your work and comics and be a little engaging. So some artists don't like to do that, and that's okay. It just means that maybe that type of show isn't for you. Josh, I try to give people their money's worth. I really do. We're gonna have to let it dry again before we add the bleed proof white, which we're gonna do at the very end. Because I want to add like a little glimmer that comes out of it. And then I have to write my name on it, which immediately devalues it. Immediately. Josh, I'm sorry I don't have your comic in front of me. I could have swore I brought it with me over here, but it's probably over by the. He did, yeah. And as I mentioned, like, it's his experience. He's a big time artist. He charges thousands of dollars for his drawings, and I will admit I went over to his booth at one point because I get books signed by other pros all the time, and I pay for it. I do not ask for freebies. Sometimes they insist, in which case I don't want to insult them. And he wasn't at his booth, so I don't know. He's not gonna come introduce himself to me. He doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. And I've met him at a handful of shows. And I've met Frank on several occasions, and most of the time he's very cordial. Quiet, quiet. Yeah, I would say when I've talked to him. All right, now we got to let that dry again, so we'll get our other drawing out. Josh was there too. He was around. He was helping out at a 3D printing booth. Um, did you guys do well? I mean, there were lots of people on the floor, and your products would be very appealing to the crowd, I think. But it's very much a pop culture show. So like being involved with those, there's a different way you got to approach it. I don't know. I found it was really at Cleveland. In New Orleans, there's a culture in that city of buying artwork, not necessarily comic book artwork, but like artwork in general. They have beautiful outdoor art markets and all sorts of places to go visit. Tons of galleries. Um, Tons of galleries, tons of just places to buy art in the city. So, like, I think that there's an appetite and an interest in purchasing artwork. And in Cleveland, I really had to be prepared to introduce comics to new readers, new fans. So, Josh said he had a good time at Boston. Most of the people he spoke with Disney well, or were at least happy with how they did. Well, good, good. Was it my biggest money-making show of the year? No, but it was a very good show. So, I like, I can't I can't abide by, saying anything too different than that, like I guess sitting and drawing with the camera this close doesn't work so well, so I have to move it out of frame. So, sorry. Sorry, everyone. I'll stand up again. I need a little water for all the yammering I keep doing. Now I actually have to draw this rope first, I think. So we're going to turn the piece. I'm not going too crazy with the winding of the rope. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. And for a sketch of this size, like, I don't know, I can't justify the labor. But if I can finish this piece. Ethan says he bought novels by how cool the Dragon or Knight was on the Dungeons and Dragons cover. Looked out, books were decent. Yeah, I mean, there's a long history of buying books for cool covers. I mean, definitely Frank Frazetta made a career out of drawing cool covers on some books that were not so cool. Some of them were great, but some of them were terrible. And I'm a diehard Frazetta guy. The paintings were out of this world when it comes to the artwork on the cover. But when you sit down and spend the time to read the books, some of them weren't so great. And even some of R.E. Howard's stuff, like, it's just adventure pulp, and, like, I don't know, they vary in quality. I think that's a nice way to put it. I always liked fantasy books, whether it was Tolkien or Howard or L. Sprague de Camp or Michael Moorcock. But once you've read, a bunch of them, they can be a little repetitive, just like anything else when you get real steeped into a genre. So I always like to balance it out by reading some different stuff, whether it's science fiction or just fiction or historical stuff. Or Pat Zurcher posted the cover to the John Steinbeck Arthurian Legends, and I got a soft spot for that book because I think it's a good. I read it at when I was younger, and I think it's got a good grasp of the major points of, like, the Le Morte d'Arthur and the classical legends, but it's written in such a way that, you know, even a teenager like myself of, like, I would say average intelligence could really get into. And then that led me to reading, the other books and stuff. Ethan says there was PlayStation Magazine I subscribed to in the 90s for the sole reason each cover was commissioned by a professional comic artist. I think I remember seeing some of those. I think it was guys like Campbell and Art Adams, and some of those guys did some work for PlayStation Magazine. Probably, I mean, Joe Madureira, I'd imagine, because, like, he went completely into video games for his career. I know he's dabbled here and there back in comics, but he's got his own gaming company, right? Like Airship Games or whatever it is. They did the Battle Chasers game. Are those the artists that you like the Campbells and the Art Adams and all those guys? I think you mentioned Jim Lee, so like the '90s artists. And Ethan has another one where he mentions the Follow the Leader album from Todd McFarlane, the Korn album, the video and stuff. I remember all that back in olden times. Ethan says he lives in the same town as the lead singer of Korn. I never met Jonathan, but I met his brother. I used to work at a comic book store that was also a music venue. He was in the store at one point when the what was it, Ozfest or whatever, one of those. He's in a band as well. I don't remember his name. Perhaps you do, but he was in the store at one point in time. I'm gonna put a little piece of like the edge of a ship. Like she's leaning over the edge of the ship. She's the queen of the Black Coast, so she was always on like a freighter. So we'll add that in. Let's get some of this pencil out of here so we can get a better look at where we're at. Do I have? Yeah, I think I do. Edema, there you go. That was the band, yes. And it was also, the comic store was also a music venue, so bands that would come through town on other tours and stuff would play there and make a few bucks. It was interesting. It was, the cool thing about Midgard was that it was really a place for kids who had nowhere else to go. You know, it was in downtown Columbus. It welcomed artistic type kids, musical kids, and there was room. Like it wasn't like you were standing over the back issues. So like there was the back issues and stuff on one side of the store, and then the other side of the store there were some couches. There was the what do you call it? The stage. That's the word. My brain works. cool, Joshua. It was a nice place to hang out. They had excellent, not quite Rubber Chicken Comics level, but I would say excellent 50-cent bins. Rubber Chicken has epic 50-cent bins. And around in the neighborhood, there were places to eat. There was like a sandwich shop. There was a Japanese place across the street. There was a Waffle House. For those of you that know what Waffle House is, and my love for Waffle House. One of the games I'll play in where I live is like, what around here would I trade for a Waffle House? And you can call me a bad New Englander, but I would trade Dunkin' Donuts for Waffle House in a second. Hot take police, whatever. I would trade Waffle House in a second for Dunkin' Donuts. Steak and Shake is another one that I wish was around here, which we do not have. The closest Waffle House, I believe, is in New Jersey. The last time I Googled it, there was a time when we were, young and stupid, and we're like, let's just drive to the closest Waffle House. And we were like, wow, it's all the way in New Jersey. And we then probably ordered a pizza or something. Yeah, Josh, imagine if the Rubber Chicken were not quite as big, because it's a big store, and you had like the next door space for playing music, like live bands played there and stuff. And they didn't serve alcohol, it was an all ages thing. I think there's a chance we're going to finish both of these drawings tonight, which would make me very happy, and I'm sure it'll make the people that want them in the mail as soon as possible happy as well. Yeah, and occasionally, and I know Jay has like, convention only comic stock that he keeps in storage. Like, um, Keith, the owner, had a similar thing where like he had a storage unit that had a bunch of comic stuff that he would only have for conventions and like his personal stuff. But every once in a while, he would pull out, a couple of tables and some long boxes and put them next door and have like a gigantic sale. I know Jay does sales outside and stuff. I've been there for those, which so much stuff, so many comic books. Got quite a few folks in here tonight, so thank you for hanging out with me. I know we're working on this Belit piece. We've gone over some of the Fan Expo Boston stuff. I've shown off some of the work I've done. Trying to keep things moving. I believe that since this is a black and white drawing, that I don't know if we can leave all that space open in the back, can we? Should we have some clouds or something? I feel like maybe we should. Now we've got these birdies here, which we'll put those in. I do. I feel like we need some clouds in order to break up the system. This one here. like that. Make it a little bit more of a dynamic piece. So you see that she's breaking more background stuff. We'll add some extra bits like that. There we go. Now we have to use a smaller pen tip for this sort of element. Ethan says my streams are nice and relaxing like Bob the painter guy on PBS. Bob Ross. Bob Ross. I grew up with Bob on my TV. We watched a fair amount of PBS when I was a kid, and you can actually watch The Joy of Painting on YouTube. They have a YouTube channel that plays it 24 hours a day, or you can pick the episodes you want. Not to say you shouldn't enjoy my videos, but Bob Ross had a very positive influence on my life for sure. It was good content, and it was encouraging me to draw and to paint because I share in his philosophy that anybody can draw and paint. And I think I missed a question earlier. Desiree's still in the room. She asked if you can do anything about watercolors after they have dried. There are some tricks. It depends what type of work we need to do, like how heavy the procedure, the surgery we have to do to save the piece, or what you're trying to do. And it depends what kind of paper you have. That's another really telltale thing with doing post-painting work on a piece. Still here, hey, Desiree. Yes, if you remember what kind of paper you used, was it watercolor paper? Did it have a texture to it? Was it really smooth? Because there's two types. There's hot press and cold press. And there are different techniques depending on the type of paper. I wish it was simpler, but once the pigment dries and gets into the paper, it's a mini canvas. If it's canvas, you should be able to just load up a brush with some water on it, re-wet that stuff, and then use a paper towel to dab it, or a dry sponge. If you can rub the water on the canvas and then dab it with a paper towel, you might be able to pull it off with just water. The other thing that you can use if it's on canvas is just a little bit of paint thinner. I recommend Turpenoid. It's not turpentine, it's slightly different. And you can just, again, take just a little bit either on a brush or on a paper towel and just dab it. And then pick up the loose paint. Like you'll see the paint get wet again, and then just get it with your paper towel. So I think that because it's on canvas, which it's interesting that you did watercolor on canvas, because if they had you do acrylic, I would give you the same advice with the Turpenoid. You could go in with Turpenoid and take it off. You got to let it sit on it a little bit if it's the acrylic paint, but you should be able to take it off with a little Turpenoid. And if you have a paint knife, once it's wet, you can just scrape it off. But the beauty of acrylics is you can just paint right on top of it. I try to be helpful. Because if there's a way to mess up a painting and try to fix it, I have failed and succeeded in probably most of the ways you can do both. It's one of the beauties of oil painting, and I know it sounds big and scary, but oil painting is one of the most forgiving mediums out there. You can rework oil for decades. Frank Frazetta reworked paintings he'd done in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 90s, and the 2000s. He redid paintings and worked on the same canvases he'd worked on his whole career. The Nat Geo party had a paint and sip station with small canvas mini easels. I was already finishing my first drink when I painted. Hey, it is okay. I like those paint night things. I think they're cool. That's one of the things I talked about was maybe if we either did like an inking exercise, like if I could mail out or email out like the blue line of a drawing and people could print it out and then try inking it themselves at home. And then we'd bring it all on the stream. Like I could send out an invite code and everybody could show off their work. Stuff like that I'd love to do. All right, this one's pretty well done. I might add just a tiny bit of white in her hair, just a couple of lines, real easy. So that, it adds a little bit more. Not too many, just a little bit here and there. And a couple of dots on there. And it's daytime. It's like a nice daytime scene, so we don't have to go too crazy. Now we can go over to our. Jonathan says he's totally down for something like that. Okay, so what would we like to draw? Would you guys like to ink an Undersea Hero piece or like a superhero? Because I could work on that and try to have that posted. If not for the next show, at some point soon. Okay, so we'll do an Undersea Hero Krakus drawing, and I'll make either a gray or a blue line that you can then print out at home. And you guys can try inking it. Like if you have nice paper to ink on, that's great. If not, just do the best you can. You can ink on computer paper. Like you can ink on anything. Like you can do, yeah, we'll do that. That'll be fun. I'm not sure if the person that commissioned this is still in attendance. I think he popped in for a minute. What do you think? You think we should do red or black? I think probably black, right? To sign it, to write our name on it. Ink Krakus before Krakus inks us. Yeah, the beauty of this streaming software is I can send out pretty much as many invites as I want for people to pop in on the stream. So how do I write my name? I do like a loop like that, and it's just my first name. It's just the letters I-A-N. It's a lowercase I. And then I always put the year. All right, the artist sketch card is done. You can even just see like the difference in ink color. Like this is India ink and it's like black. And then this actually has almost like a bluishness to it. So, even though it says black. Permanent marker. Let's zoom out so you can see the finished Galit piece. We got our cone. Fancy zoom with hand crank stand. All right, there's our Galit drawing where she's holding on to the main line there, and then here's our little Conan. So it's 9:38. I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm going to call it an early night since we somehow got everything done on time, and I'm at a loss for things to talk about. I loved hearing from you. Thank you for spending the evening with me. It was a rough day today, so it was really wonderful to hear from all of you. And I will get to work on an inking assignment for us all. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you again, and I hope to see you at the next one. Good night.